In the last lecture, we used this NGRX state, and I know it can look really confusing with all these reducers and the state being added here. We're just building up the basics right now though. It'll become much easier once the basics are set and once you get the files set up, as I will prove to you now when we add an ingredient. Let's dispatch an action. We already have the action configured here and we're checking for it in our reducer. So all we have to do now is dispatch it. We want to dispatch it whenever we edited our shopping list or when we added a new component. So let's go to the shopping edit component here. And there we got the onSubmit check, where we check if we're in edit mode. And if we're not in edit mode, I want to add an ingredient. So this is where I want to dispatch a new action. Now for that, I will simply inject the store here too, private store, which is of type store, import that from NGRX as before. So add this import. And with that added, we now have to set the type here again. And of course, that's the same type as before. Now, if you don't want to write this type as here with shopping list, ingredients, and so on, you could of course also take the shortcut and just say any, but I'll repeat it. Now with the store set up here, we can call dispatch. And as I said, we want to do this here when we add an ingredient. So I'll say this store dispatch. And now we want to dispatch a new action. Action is described or is a JavaScript object. But since we already have our actions configured in this actions file, we can take advantage of this add ingredient class. And this is where this action setup and typing here starts to make sense. We want to dispatch this add ingredient action. So let's import it. I'll add an import here at the top. I'll import everything from that actions file as shopping list actions. So from that file which lives in the store folder, the shopping list actions file. So this is the variable, the object, all the exports from that file are saved in. Now here in dispatch, I will create a new instance of the shopping list actions add ingredient class. So keep in mind, that's this class. And this class now has this payload we can set. Now to set this right in the constructor, I'll adjust this code by adding a constructor. I want to use the TypeScript shortcut of turning this argument right into a property of this class by adding an accessor in front of it. And then payload can be set. So now I got my payload I can set. Payload will be an ingredient still. So I just adjusted this so that we have a constructor we can use. Now with that, I can conveniently pass the ingredient here to the constructor. And this will of course be the new ingredient, like this. So with that, let's save this and let's see if it works. It should work just like that. So let's head over to our application. It should have reloaded. And let's add the good old test ingredient, 5 of them, and let's click add. And you see what's added. So everything works just like before. And even though we had to do a lot of setup before, now it was basically this single line which allows us to edit our state. And this hopefully shows you a bit of the reduced complexity this brings us in the end. Because keep in mind, before we had to subscribe to changes in our ingredients here and update them whenever we saw changes. We emitted an event in our shopping list service whenever something changed. Well, now we can get rid of this thing of get ingredients. We can get rid of this code here and therefore of our subscription. We can get rid of on destroy since we don't need to manage our subscription anymore. We can get rid of that import. Our code became much leaner because now we got NGRX managing everything behind the scenes through observables. And therefore we still have that reactivity from before where we used a subject to get informed about changes. Now NGRX is doing all of that and triggers change detection. And we just got a few lines interacting with our store And we have a state which is immutable, managed in one central place, in the reducer here in the end, and we can't accidentally change it. And if we do want to change it, we add an action and we dispatch this action. Now let's add actions for all the other things we can do, like add multiple ingredients, update ones, or delete ingredients.